Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Naomi Macnish. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Ministers to visit Defense Force bases after inmate attack claims. National Energy moves to recover $610 million in unpaid fees. Stuart Young welcomes Dragon deal restart, but warns of challenges. 2 killed, police officers wounded in separate shootings. Now for the details. Minister of Homeland Security Roger Alexander and Attorney General John Jeremy will tour Defense Force bases in Chaguaramas Thursday, the 2nd of October, following reports that high-risk inmates assaulted a prison officer by throwing feces on him. The Prison Officers Association alleged the officer was forced to continue working in soiled clothes, but Acting Prisons Commissioner Hayden Ford says no official report confirms this. Alexander said he will be visiting to see what is happening, while the association says the incident highlights poor support systems for officers at detention facilities. The National Energy Corporation is cracking down on delinquent users of its ports and piers, seeking to recover more than $610 million in outstanding fees. In a statement, NEC said some debts are over 120 days old. Users have been warned that failure to pay will result in suspension of access to services. The company reports $35 million has already been recovered since strict enforcement began. NEC manages the Port of Galeota, Port of Brighton, and Iscot Dock. Former Energy Minister Stuart Young says Trinidad and Tobago faces a long road ahead despite U.S. approval for the restart of the Dragon gas deal with Venezuela. At an opposition media briefing, Young questioned the terms of the new OFAC license and whether payments to Venezuela would be allowed in cash or only in kind. He also called for the government to release details of the license. While welcoming the potential benefits, Young warned against misleading the public, stressing that negotiations with Venezuela remain difficult and highly sensitive. 2 men are dead and a police officer is hospitalized following 3 shootings in a 10-hour span on Tuesday. A 32-year-old factory worker was gunned down in Tunapuna shortly after midnight, while a 33-year-old Lavental resident was killed later in the morning. In a separate incident, PC Armand Andrews was shot outside his Aruca home in what police believe was an attempted robbery. He remains hospitalized with serious injuries. The Commissioner of Police has extended support to his family as investigations continue. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi Macnish. Thanks for watching.
WESN.
Well, as I said, there are a square mile of culture and history and other stuff. We're going to talk about sociology and other aspects of life of people in Trinidad and Tobago, but we're focusing on the people in this place called Woodbrook. That, what you just saw at the beginning of the program, it's an enticement to the discussion and to the film. It's a film on Woodbrook, and to help us understand why it was made and what's behind it. Our guest in the studio with us, Wendy Seeley. She's listed as the project lead on the film. Miguel Brown on the other end. He's a historian, and he's known for many different things and many different capacities in Trinidad and Tobago. He was a teacher, among other things. And then Margaret McDowell, she's associated with the National Trust, and she's been a collaborator. A film on Woodbrook. That's the discussion, we call it Woodbrook in Film. Before we go any further, let's take a look, another look at what it is about.
Remains if you know where to look. The clues to its origins exist everywhere. Just ask Mr. Wolsey Brooks, who has returned home from a life spent abroad.
Is the Woodbrook vicinity. In those days I was not in existence, but it was told to me by my grandfather.
When I left Woodbrook, it was a truly residential neighborhood with public amenities. Now it's a bustling hub.
By day, Woodbrook buzzes with commerce and community. By night, it transforms into a cultural and entertainment hub. But for Mr. Brooks, much has changed.
Although it seems as though I'm the only one who is aging, but underneath it all, it feels like the same Woodbrook I grew up with after all these years. Huh?
The pursuit of progress. This area has always symbolized upward mobility and growth.
But with any luck, we'll see a bigger focus on preserving its rich history as heritage tourism, so everyone can see just how far Woodbrook has come.
Today, the face of Woodbrook is defined by modern residential living spaces like One Woodbrook Place, alongside dynamic entertainment hubs such as Movie Town.
And as for the future, who knows? I may not be there to witness it, but I'm certain that for my grandchildren and the generations after them, Woodbrook will keep evolving and reaching new heights far beyond what I could ever imagine. One thing I can say, though, is that no matter how much Woodbrook evolves, the soul of it, the soul of Woodbrook,
Always remain the same.
So bring back the old time days. Bring back them old time ways.
That's just a taste. So let's talk about it. Wendy, we'll start with you. So you were the project lead on it. Talk about what was involved there.
Yes, all right. The film, actually, the video documentary video is actually a takeoff from the book Growing Up Woodbrook.
Yeah.
And we did this during COVID. The book was done during COVID. The idea of the book came from Lynette Dolly, because we were working very closely with the Woodbrook Business Association in St. James. So Lynette suggested she'll do the book, and they suggested Pan on the Avenue. So that's how Pan on the Avenue became about, and it's a success today. So it's the book. And one of our sponsors suggested that a documentary film would be useful. And based on that, we sent out tenders, and of course TTT rose to the occasion, and the book. The book actually, or the film actually, is one that looks back. Here is Mr. Brooks returning from the cold and coming home, and he's walking through Woodbrook and he's reminiscing as if he visits the Woodbrook post office, he visits the tax office, of course, Brooklyn Bar. So he's reminiscing as he walks through Woodbrook. He's retired, he's home. You know what else to do on an evening? Let me walk through Woodbrook and rediscover my Woodbrook. I'm home. I come back home.
Yeah.
You know? So in essence, that's what the documentary video is all about. And it was developed to be used in schools, not just to sit in the reservoir on some shelf, but whether Caribbean Airlines could use a clip. So many people come home for Carnival and stay in Woodbrook. And we thought, here is an opportunity, here's an avenue. So people can get a feel as they're on the flight coming home.
That is well, I would say in process, those ambitions.
We knew we wanted to use it. Why the video documentary? And we said, well, the use of it could be in schools, community centers, it could be used on CAL, on airlines, you know, just a clip to give people a feel of Woodbrook. Yeah.
All right, Mary McDowell, you want to, your opening statement?
Well, that Woodbrook, the place is extremely important for Port of Spain. You know, a lot of cities all over the world are evolving, and they have specific areas. Woodbrook developed primarily as a residential area, but from the beginning, it was always somewhere that one could have everything happen. So we had the artists. The artists in Woodbrook are just, I mean, there's so many. And then everything about us. So our steel bands are there, our mass camps are there as well. So we had that. But then we also always had commerce, always had the corner shop, always had those kinds of things. And then we also, Woodbrook, why Woodbrook is to me very important is because it stamped a vernacular architecture, the whole love of the kind of architecture that came out of us. And that was also there in Woodbrook. So that's my opening statement.
Yeah, I want to come back to some of it, as you're talking about artists and cultural, I would say, revolution that happened with the number of steel orchestras that came and still exist here, and other things, you know, the football teams and cricket teams and you know, sort of prominent characters in a kind of way. But Miguel Brown, you're an institution in yourself.
Thank you. Making me blush. My take on the whole exercise that the Woodbrook Committee has engaged in for the past 5 years is primarily one of documentation, and give my historical perspective, I suppose I see the importance of that more than many. It is important that we document. So many things around us are changing, and it is important that we document what is there at this point in time for posterity, so that the generation that follows us knows what was there and therefore where we came from. We cannot know where we are going if we don't know where we came from. And documentation, this is an example that other communities should follow. We are documenting our history. It doesn't matter whether the book sells 1 million copies or 20 copies or 1 copy. The important fact, it is documented for future generations. And that's the important both of the video and of the book. Okay? I'm now working, because Calypsonians are folk poets, and through their lyrics and through their calypsos, they have documented so much of the country's history by placing those calypsos in context. And I am working on one particular calypsonian now and trying to get others to see the importance of documenting the works left behind by these calypsonians, because calypsonians come, calypsonians go, and when they die, we choose one song. I give you the example of Explainer, okay? He sang Lorraine. Look, Explainer had a very, very, very deep and conscious repertoire for us to do him the disservice to tell us that he sang Lorraine. A man who sang for over 50 years, you're going to tell me he sang Lorraine. So documentation is extremely important, and I think that's the significance both of the video and of the book.
All right, let's come back to the book, how it came about.
The book?
Yeah.
Yes, well, as I suggested, as I mentioned earlier, Lynette Dolly, who is the chair of the Woodbrook Residence Committee, thought it would be a good idea to document our story. We are to tell our story, because when written by others, they don't get it right. What we did, we invited Woodbrook residents to send in stories of growing up in Woodbrook. And we had plenty folks responded to the storytelling. Storytelling is important when we tell the story of who we are, so that the next generation can know that, how it came down.
Not only that, you see the landscape, what they are describing was the landscape at that time.
Yes.
And that is very important to capture in the written word, okay? So Rice Road as we know it, okay, in a generation gone was nothing like what we saw. How was it that they used to go there as a form of recreation? It's all captured in the book, written words, in the stories told by them.
Stories told by them.
Yeah.
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago, I read a piece in the Guardian. Dr. David Bratt was writing a piece, and he talked, sort of, well, not wistfully, but lustily about where he lives. The part of Port of Spain in Woodbrook where he lives. Yes. And I responded to him. I said, it was moving the way he talked about it.
It's very important to document.
And I can't tell you why this came about, but I'm a country boy. I'm from this place called
But the
West Bowers.
exercise was difficult because it was done during COVID. And all the information resources, they were all closed. NALIS had restrictions, National Archives had restrictions. So I had to use networks to get into the Colonial Office in London. All right, I used that network so that I would search online for records related. And that's how, it's there in the book. I got a pay slip for the indentured workers on the plantation, and it came from the records of the archives in London, the Colonial Office in London. Yes.
I think that is something that was really interesting, because when we first met the group of ladies, at that time we were all ladies, sorry.
I was teaching. I only came on board after I retired.
But this group of ladies with this wonderful idea, this was just like about 2 weeks before COVID was officially here with us. And we thought, wow, this is a huge job, and but there was so much enthusiasm. And when the stories, and the fact that they were starting to tell stories, and I think that was what attracted us at National Trust, and particularly because of it gave heritage a human side, because people don't think of it like that. So we were very interested. And then, bam, here came COVID. But what was interesting, and I think this is a success of the book that we don't even celebrate as much, was how we segued immediately into every possible kind of communication that wasn't physical, And it was it wasn't just internet, and so it was phone calls. WhatsApp suddenly became a thing. We were scanning things, we were emailing, we were having all kinds of very long discussions in the middle of the night. Plus, we were now suddenly realized that the internet was there and how much we could get. And so many of the stories came to us through all those different media. And so that is why the book could happen at that time. And then what was great was that because of COVID, we had a lot of time on our hands. So that helped as well. So that while we tell people, we tell other communities, you need to do this. We understand how difficult it can be, and it will be. But we also see the benefits of this. Because coming out of this particular book, to me, I'm an urban planner by profession. Yeah. I started to really understand how important Port of Spain was, and how important Savannah was, and how important Belmont is. And and then we start to think about Observatory Street and down and round the bridge. Yes. And that's just in Port of Spain. But then I go out to Princestown and I look at Princestown and I say, look at these stories. There's a lot going on here. that I would love for someone to start to develop. So I think it is something that needs to expand and you know,
And
go
I
on.
cannot talk about a book and not talk about Dr. Dylan Kerrigan and Ken Jaikaran Singh. I work with Ken at St. Mary's College, and he was recommended to me by a fellow librarian. Said, Wendy, get Ken on board. Now we have all this material.
And so they're both Woodbrook people as well?
No. Dylan lived in Woodbrook for a while. But it's interesting to note that, okay, we have all this material. I need somebody to script this. So I contacted, I was doing a research. I was doing something for Ralph Henry. And I came across Selwyn Ryan's book. And I went through the bibliography. And I saw Kerrigan Dylan, the making of the black middle class in Woodbrook. I said, bingo. I said, bingo. And I followed up on who he was. And I did some research and realized that he spent some time at St. Augustine campus. I called Rhoda and Rhoda Reddock, and she said, you're in good hands. I also contacted Professor Brereton, and she said, you're in good hands. Contacted him in London. He had already left. He was in London, England. And I said, I am Wendy C, and I'm calling from Port of Spain, Trinidad. I have some a script on Woodbrook. I realized you did your PhD on Woodbrook. Are you willing to assist? And he was in. And what a tremendous plus that was. A great fillip for us. Oh, to work with someone virtually and as if tremendous human being he was.
Could you talk a little bit about what it means for somebody to have done a PhD on Woodbrook?
Yes, boy, good wish Dylan was here to answer that question. Why it is he chose Woodbrook? His mother is from St. James, Trinidadian, and his father, I believe, is Scottish. And he lived always wanted to come back, and he lived in Woodbrook. And maybe from that aspect of understanding the arts, the vibrancy of the place, he decided maybe to do something on Woodbrook. And he was able to validate some of the things that we had question marks on. He validated those things. Like, for instance, Jones. What Jones was she? Very, she was a Marxist and played a major role in London and England. She's passed now. And she said, he was saying to us that she had meetings in a patio in Woodbrook, so that's why it was included in the veranda. You know, she held meetings and whatnot in a family home. After the family moved from Belmont, they came for a while. What you will find too is a lot of people were transient. They came from Belmont and the migration from Barbados, and they settled in Woodbrook. Yeah.
So a good proportion of the people would have been people having come from Barbados, and
people came from Barbados, and I think in the earlys, because Mr. Rollock came from Barbados, and Mr. Rollock was the manager for the estate, and he used to ride through Woodbrook on a white horse to collect taxes from people who hadn't paid. And he is related to Beryl McBurney.
I see.
Yes, yes, Mr. Rollock.
And then we had Jews. We had people coming in from Lebanon and Syria coming in, and we still have a few houses with vines, with the grapevines. And we know right away when we see the grapevines, we know that that's one of our migrants from the eastern side, you know. And so we had those very, very interesting, you know, people saying that they remember these ladies clustering in the park in black, all in black. Yes, and you know, and who are these people? Yes. So that in the middle of our Trini kind of creation, we were already getting influences from outside.
We see some microcosm of Trinidad as a whole. Trinidad has always been a transient society with people coming from everywhere. So I don't know why we get into this and people coming from Venezuela, which we're seeing an outpouring now. That has always been so.
And they were in Woodbrook.
And they were in Woodbrook. They're in Woodbrook
they
in the
were in Woodbrook.
annexes.
Yes.
My mother was Venezuelan, so my cousins are here. They're in the annex by the Seabrights, lower down Robert Street. That was part of the community. So you had Portuguese shops in Woodbrook. You had Chinese shops in Woodbrook. Okay? You had Indians with their shops selling fruit and vegetables, selling coal. So it was always a microcosm of the wider society. And a lot of people from the small islands, particularly Barbados.
Actually, Lower Street is an important street because it's a street that, and you would notice, Andy, we don't have a mosque nor a temple in Woodbrook. Interesting to note. But Lower Street, for some reason, had a lot of East Indians, among them Naipaul. Hence,
the Capildeo family.
Capildeo family.
And some of those names that I talked about in the film.
Yes, well, they didn't get too much mention, but it's in the book.
And then the wonderful musicians.
For years, Kana used to, the person to prepare the grounds for cricket. He lived on Lower Street.
The oval grounds.
The oval grounds, yes. But he also would have cows. His cows used to graze in what we call Pompeii Savannah.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, and where is it, where we know today as the Jean Pierre Sports Complex and the Hazley Crawford Stadium, because at a point in time people, the powers that be insisted that it be called the National Stadium, okay? And we found a situation where good sense prevailed and we named that stadium after our first gold medalist, as it should have been named. All of that was past year. All of that was past year.
A lot of it, and that's where we used to go to pick downs as children. Don't let your parents know you went down there. Because you had what was called slipway. And slipway, right. And all that area, downs. And we used to go there to pick downs. You see where the National Flour Mills is? That used to be a skating ring. And then a little lower down.
The Guardian Sports Club was in
that
area
lower
as
down,
well.
even before that, a little lower down was where the Americans had their base. Right, going towards Dretchy. By the John Donaldson, going down that area. That was, my mother was one of the secretaries to one of the engineers.
Where was what they call the Gaza Strip?
Oh, the Gaza Strip, that's why so close to these guys on Rice Road. Yes, the Gaza Strip. And was well known for ladies of the night and, and the Americans.
It was an entertainment hub because given the presence of the Americans here. You needed a place, and that's why Point Kumana, close to the base in Chaguaramas, has so many bars. Up to today, it's littered with bars. You can actually count them as you go along because they provided entertainment for the servicemen, the U.S. servicemen here.
Yes, and many of them courted and married, of course, Caucasians, Trinidad whites. Once you see on our street, in Anna Street, we had several Jews. We had lots of Germans. And when you see the long Studebakers pull up and it's the Yankees coming to take out a young lady or something like that.
And then the Guardian Sports Club used to be on Ricen Road.
Ricen Road as well.
Where that whole area where the flour mills is, the Guardian Sports Club was located there.
We used to, and the circus used to be there. See where the National Flour Mills is? That's where the circus, when we, there's a circus, used to come every so often, and it was located there.
But I just wanted to say, I was trying to get a word in here when Wendy was talking, that that whole area there was pasture and swamp, and you had cows grazing, and a feature of Woodbrook, you had a number of Indian ladies who would come peddling milk to the various households, our Pwatiks. That's an image that someone tried to capture in the book as well. I also remember as a boy, Friday was Beggar's Day. So you always had little 5 cents, 10 cents, 25 cents, which was a lot of money in those days, to give to the beggars at the park. I don't know why these beggars congregated in Woodbrook on a Friday, going from house to house, collecting money, alms,
You know, as a boy from Los Bajos, you know, when my mother was living in what's called what used to be called Trumacac and so on.
Yeah.
My stepfather worked on the docks, and I got in there in 1970 and so on. But I used to wish that I went to Woodbrook Secondary. The people who I know in secondary school sports used to run into athletes from and somehow, you know, that's the feelings that I used to have.
Yes.
But that building was where the market used to be.
Yeah, that's the market.
Yeah. So that, you know, and so people around that area. I'm trying to, why am I forgetting the pianist and the musician, the music?
Well, yeah, when it comes to that, I mean...
Chakaris,
yes.
Right,
Chakaris.
they're from, they're Woodbrook as well. And
And
that's
they've
what I'm
been
saying.
preceded by Ellie Manhead.
And
They're
of course.
recent vintage.
Yes,
yeah.
well, they're right. And then we had John Buddy Williams.
Invaders Steel Orchestra, born in Woodbrook, in the same place that they are today. That's the significance of that place. And that's why they fought for it.
And that's why Mr. Brooks decided to reminisce and walk to all these key spaces that he knew. He passed through the Invader Spaniard, he went to the Little Carib and noticed everything.
And the Brooklyn Bar.
But juxtaposing and overlooking Woodbrook is the modern Woodbrook, One Woodbrook Place.
Yeah, well, if we talk about the culture, I mean, there are some huge names that we could talk about. You know, and the number of steel bands.
As a young girl, walking to and from school at the corner of Lewis Street, Ann Robert used to have all John Buddy Williams' children liming with Andre Tanker, and you knew it was a music house, all right? And he used to back up Beryl McBurney. Beryl McBurney and John Buddy Williams' wife were related, all right? So Joan, Auntie Joan used to sew all the clothes for Beryl's costumes, you know? So that corner is important.
Working in Port of Spain. And Port of Spain, the connection between downtown Port of Spain and Woodbrook was there. And that's why there's so much, the transportation in and out of Woodbrook is amazing. You don't need a car in Woodbrook, you know, you can hop into a taxi and go anywhere. You know, so that kind of link with Port of Spain was, and then the link with the Savannah, which again was, and the Oval. So that it was the best type of place to live if you are going to be in an urban space. I know you will want to argue that the country is better as well, but if you're in Port of Spain.
Yes, a lot of people that lived, and after school, Grace Talma in particular, Grace came from San Fernando to board in Woodbrook.
Yes.
And I think it's in the book that people felt comfortable to send their children to board in Woodbrook. Yeah, they felt comfortable because they knew it was a good home.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's some institutions that have arisen out of Woodbrook. Lenore's Business School is a fine example. You had to send your young girl child to Lenore's Business School for her to learn all the secretarial skills.
Well, the Waldrons is almost like a hallmark in Woodbrook, the Waldron family from Carlos Street. You were speaking about the sociology.
Yes.
And Carlos Street, for some reason, to most people, well, it's a wide street, but for a lot of people, there was this little bit of social distinction for Carlos Street. It would be the upper middle class, black middle class. Among them would have been one of your colleagues. She used to write for the newspaper, Jones. What Jones was she? They live lower down Carlos Street. Anyway, yes, it's in the book. Yes, it's in the book. Yes, can't remember, but anyway.
Then you had Across the Border. I've heard older folks talk about Across the Border. As a younger child, I used to hear them talking about across the border, and across the border simply meant that you live south of Arapita Avenue, as opposed to those who live north of the Arapita Avenue. We had a little bit of sociology coming in.
Marion O'Callaghan.
Yes, but Marion spoke a lot about that social distinction of Callow Street. And I always remember that.
Another thing we can see, the layout of Woodbrook was very interesting. It was one of the first places that had streetlights. It had sewer traces. It had pavements. It had, and parks. A lot of parks.
3 parks.
Yes. And you had garbage collection. Bush collection. All of this was new to us growing up in this kind of time. So Woodbrook was really the place to be. If you could get a residence in Woodbrook, you were doing very well. You know, so there was that coming in.
Yeah, like I say, you know, I had a relative who came from where I come from and so on, and he was renting, I can't remember the name of the street now, but I used to love to go by him in the afternoons, you know, and the more because, you know, my first job was on the docks, and a lot of people would be from this part of, you know, and so when they talk about living and liming in Woodbrook, somehow it hit me. You know, but even before that, you know, going to Paris Secondary and going to compete in secondary school sports over a couple of years. I wanted to come and go to Woodbrook Secondary. This is how people used to.
Then you had the layout of the houses themselves with these patios, the galleries. That, you know, it meant that you could have someone sitting on the gallery, the children could be outside in the road, but there was always some eye looking across, you know, from one of the aunties and somewhere would be looking. And that also helped. At Christmas time, we caroled. We used to go and meet the Robinsons. Robinsons had a whole string band of them. And we would go and carol. In fact, there were a whole lot of boys on Anna Street. I don't know why, but there were a lot of them. And so all of them got into this supposedly caroling, but it was kind of a caterwauling most of the time, but we had a great time. And everybody would invite you in, and you'd eat cake until you were fed up of cake.
Caroling, as a matter of fact, we used to be in Adam Smith Square, you know, red hoods and white tops, caroling. You know, so it's a shame Adam Smith Square, right there, you know. I think too that you're talking about the impression of Woodbrook and what Woodbrook would have on most people. On the weekend, I was at a function and sat with 2 well-known artists, Carlisle Harris and Ken Critchlow. And strangely enough, the topic was Woodbrook. I was amazed at that. The topic was Woodbrook, you know, and then we were joined by the former ambassador, Trinidad former ambassador and former president of the United Nations, and he said that he went to Woodbrook Secondary School. And he says, the place has changed so much, you know, that Arapita Avenue is so grungy, you know. And, you know, I wish I don't think we have the power, but I wish there was something we can do about Arapita Avenue. I really hope, you know, that the powers that be can. Arapita Avenue can be a nice place. It can be. Right now, it's grungy. And
even though it probably might be the busiest strip
anywhere else in Trinidad.
Any night of the week.
Any time of the week. And it should not be. If you want to attract tourists, I think it needs to be improved over what's been done in the last couple of years.
Just basic things. I mean, you know, and that's why I think I felt that the book helped to show what was possible, because there's a whole section that's like the future. And it's not about not having business and not having activity.
No,
it's about, in fact, it's about doing even more, looking at your sidewalks, having people sit on the sidewalks and have all their, not just stand up, but sit and have people walking up and down and this kind of thing. They've tried different things, but I think the work has to be done a little bit more, what's the word, scientifically maybe.
Yes.
The part of the issue is just plain garbage collection and cleaning and so on and so on. If you have that number of people, you're going to have to do a lot more. We can't have things supporting the trees and those become the bins and you know, peeling sidewalks that they were trying to make some kind of pink plaster on the sidewalks. And all of these are just little bits and pieces that are being put there instead of really looking and saying, hey, what can I do with thousands of people who want to come to a space? How can I create a space that's really very exciting? And the next morning, when some of the other people are trotting down to go to church somewhere, it would not look as if it's last night's leftovers, you know? And that has to be done. It's an exciting possibility, and I think the book helps to show what's possible, you know?
Towards the end.
A couple of years ago, there was an issue that was building about noise for some people.
Yes.
Noise pollution.
The noise. They come from the bars and till all 4 o'clock in the morning, there's music playing. And you have to remember that Woodbrook is an aging community. You also have families that have young children going to school. You have people working shift, nurses. So that it's a disturbance to anyone. I see it in our chat.
It's a disturbance also in terms of parking.
Parking, yes, parking.
People parking in front of people's driveways on the cross streets that go into Arapita Avenue. It's a perennial problem.
But guess what? We feature, that's one of the reasons I was glad you featured Brooklyn Bar in it, because Brooklyn Bar, which is one of the oldest,
it's an institution in itself.
it doesn't give the kind of problems that some of the new ones do. So that we can take a look at what Brooklyn Bar is doing and how they operate. And if you will notice that at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, there's somebody out there cleaning from the bar. So that it's not that it's impossible. It's not that anybody is saying that we shouldn't have a bar. But if Brooklyn Bar can do it, I won't call the others right now, but the others can do it too.
Others can do it.
Yeah.
One of the things that I had suggested to Dr. Aboud when he did his food, remember I met you?
Yeah.
We met, right. Yeah. Is that he can have and, you know, work with UDCOT he wanted to have a whole section above of all the key artists at the top, almost like a, call it, like paintings, a mosaic, like a mosaic. Yes, quite true, Miguel. A mosaic of all our artists, the Ray Holmans, the Andre Tankers, you know, the Beryl McBurneys, the Pat Bishops, the Ellie Manettes, you know, that he, so that if...
Where would this be? You mean on top of his business?
Yes,
you
he
mean?
said so. He has a space, and he said he would love to do that. And I said, it's an excellent idea. So that if you are bringing tourists through Arapita Avenue, they would see it, you know, the gems of Woodbrook, you know.
What would have led to the creation of that group of people, you know, cultural stars and, you know, people who make a mark all over the road? I remember
It's a milieu, because we have that in all the communities, all the suburbs of Port of Spain, and Belmont is no different to Woodbrook, okay? East Dry River is no different to Woodbrook in terms of what they produce. The artist, the panman, whatever sphere, whatever genre of music he sings is a product of the community.
Yeah, but somehow...
Even Boise sing in Woodbrook.
Right. But somehow the
Louis Street.
Yeah, but somehow the Woodbrook personality appeared, but certainly in my mind, and people who have these discussions with, who used to have these discussions with, you know, there's a certain specialness that one gets if you're talking about somebody from...
Because so many people came around the same time, Woodbrook was created in a very short space of time. It wasn't something that grew over time. You know, the corporation got the land, decided to put down the houses, do this thing. It happened right away. And because of that, the first community was very they were a real community because they had just come, they were all together, they were all learning each other, and I think they helped to support each other. And so those artists that are there were supported heavily by the rest of the community. So that it didn't matter. We didn't hear about noise when Buddy Williams and them started jam. So, I mean, the whole of the area would have, but it was part, they were all part of it, you know, they were a community.
Or even when Beryl is practicing.
Oh, my word, yes.
As children, we used to peep through the galvanized to see Beryl practice, you know?
I remember being, you know, living in Toronto and going to a show with Louise Bennett, and I was working for a West Indian newspaper and went to talk to her and so on. So I tell her from Trinidad. She talked about Beryl McBurney for like half an hour. Louise Bennett.
And it's the same thing with the pans. Nobody complains about the noise of the pan. So that, you know, and all the people who come and everything is going on there. So there is something about the support. And even new artists and new business places need to kind of inculcate themselves into the community.
Yes, I think
and then
it's a tradition that never died. So you talk about Beryl McBurney of that era, and then you come to, you talk about Eddie Manette, and Eddie Manette passes on to Ray Holman, okay, to Nappy Myers, to Andre Tanker. So you see different generations all producing musicians and cultural icons in different eras.
And then you have the black box now.
Big black.
And
Big black box, Three Canal,
you know.
But I will also say that we all, as children, we all wrote our exams with the strains of Invaders, the strains of Jose, the strains of Phase 2, not a problem. Not what the noise that you're getting here today. It's a different type of noise. Boom, and the bass is shattering your window panes, and you lie down at nights and your window panes are going, you know, as if a band is passing.
Well, share personal experience this carnival just gone. Well, Woodbrook has always been the hub of carnival in terms of, you had George Bailey, you had Stephen Lee Young, you had Max Awan, they all had mass camps here. And they parked this big truck in front of my house. I said, well, okay, not a problem. I told them, I asked why you didn't park on the other side. Once you all don't play any music, and Tuesday morning came and they started to blast that music, and the house started, I live in a wooden house, the house literally started to shake, and the dogs were petrified. A different type of noise, because there was no need to play the music from the music truck at that level when the band was not even moving. You see, so you have to be considerate. You have to be aware of the people around you. It's not you alone.
And we haven't talked about Minchell yet.
We haven't talked about Minchell, or nor have we talked about the place names in Woodbrook, which is extremely important.
That's where Miguel comes in, because he did that extensive research, that extensive work on the place names, street names in Woodbrook.
Let's get into some of them.
Yes, he can tell you all about it.
Well, we have several street names in Woodbrook, of course, because of the contribution of the Seagats and they buying the Woodbrook estate, because the Woodbrook estate had changed hands many times. So you had Murray being the original owner of the estate, hence Murray Street. Okay, then you had the richest plantation owner in Trinidad, William Burnley, okay, buying the estate, and then the Seagats coming in, because the Seagats moved their operations from Venezuela to Trinidad, and that's how we have the name Angostura. Angostura was the original name of Ciudad Bolivar. That's where my mother was born. So they moved their operations here to Trinidad, and it was not the original owner of Angostura who moved to Trinidad and bought the Woodbrook estate. It was his son. It was not Dr. J.B. Seagat, as some people think. He had died in Venezuela, in Angostura. What had happened is that he had died, and he had left the business in the hands of his eldest son. And they were the ones who, in moving to Trinidad, decided that they were going to buy the Woodbrook estate. Okay, and obviously I mean, you are the owners, you would obviously name, and we should never get rid of those names after members of the family. So the three sons, okay, Carlos, Louis, okay, Alfredo, those streets are the three sons. Okay, those streets are the three sons. Then you have Anna, then you have Petra, okay, Rosalino, all of those, Siget family. Siget family. And then, because we were a colony of Britain, we found the colonized always wants to celebrate themselves. It's expected. We got a proliferation of streets named after generals and warlords in the Boer Wars. Yeah. So Roberts, French, Kitchener, okay, Buller, okay, because Buller was originally or initially in charge of the Boer Wars in South Africa. The Boer Wars were the wars that were fought between the British and the Dutch for control of South Africa. And the British won that, and that paved the way for apartheid. Yet we celebrate these 19 warlords in our place names. Oh, it's right there. It's all 19 of them. There are what, 38 or 39 streets. 19 of them are named after these generals in the Boer Wars.
Which I would like to start the movement to change. Yes. You know, so there's a lot more changing besides Picton and the other horrible ones that we have. You know. Yeah,
well, Picton is not in Woodbrook. I remember Picton is in Newtown. Yeah. So again, that's another distinction. The Newtown estate, okay, Sinclair estate, north of Tragreet Road, they're different from Woodbrook because Woodbrook is leasehold land, they're freehold land.
So where we are right now, speaking from,
yes, you're Woodbrook. You're Woodbrook. Yeah. From Colville Street right down to the Marval River.
And bounded by Ryson Road north to Tragreet Road south.
No, Tragreet Road north and Arapita and Rice Road south.
Yeah. It's not spots, yeah.
Yes.
So
those place names are very interesting. And then the colonizers, again, the British colonizers, we need to name streets, so let's name them after the mayors. So Adam Smith Square is named after a mayor.
But that's okay.
That's fine, that's fine. So you had a situation where with the expansion, as I said, that area we built the Jean Pierre Sports Complex, and we have Dennis Mahabir Street, we have Hamilton Holder Street, progressive, named after current mayors, contemporary, our time. So what was just the Woodbrook Playground is named after the Augustus Williams. Yeah, so we see progress in that sense, but a lot. We have those 19. We still have those 19 streets named after British warlords.
And we did make a recommendation.
Yes, we did make a recommendation.
Like for instance, Buller Street. Buller Street.
What is the connection of the Queen's Park over where it is to what we're talking about?
It's not in Woodbrook, but I remember, but I remember one, it's in Sinclair.
Because
but
it's on the other side of
yes, and I remember it was Ambassador Anthony Phillips Spence indicating that you can, because so much of Woodbrook is into the Queen's Park Oval and Queen's Park Oval into Woodbrook. And he wanted us.
Invaders who called in the early days the Oval Boys.
Oval Boys. Yeah. But strangely enough, Oval Boys is doing research now for a group in Toronto, the Anthony Pear, the Bathurst Creative Center. Oval Boys really got their name from boys running to pick up the not the balls of cricket, tennis balls. Tennis balls, yes. That's where it got its name from. Tennis balls.
And Harvard Sports Club.
That's a Sinclair. Sinclair. You know?
Again, linked.
Well, I'm saying they would prefer to be known to be in.
But we would love to see Robert Street renamed Barry McBurney, Buller Street,
Bailey,
George
that
Bailey.
was his headquarters.
Yes, Bailey. George Bailey, you know.
So there's a movement for that to happen.
Well, there was a committee that was created, and an actual task force almost, and various people presented before it, and including the Woodbrook residents. And they have presented all of the ideas. You know.
But you see, what happens is when you have one government doing something and another government comes in, it just gets lost in the melee. So we never get to we never solve the root of the problem because people play politics with important issues. And this is a national issue.
I think this one will continue because it's a rolling boil, you know, and I think it's the kind of thing that's getting more and more people are important. And I noticed with the mayor, the new mayor, when he announced Kwame Ture Street, he got a lot of support. So I think it's
when he did it. When did he do it?
Of course.
Why didn't he do it before? Why is he doing it now?
But the thing about it
that's,
is that
that's the issue.
Well,
so we as a colonized people, you see, people tell you about erasing history. Changing a place name doesn't erase the history. The history doesn't reside in the plaque. Okay, Buller Street, okay, the history is written and already recorded. It's a matter of who we celebrate in our public spaces. Is Columbus deserving of that tribute in a public space over and above a homespun J.J. Thomas, who was recognized worldwide as a linguist, whose theory and practice of Creole grammar, okay, stands as a monument in terms of scholarship up to today. Simple Sudas Sadhu, who the authorities, the powers that be, you can't build a temple on plantation land. So what did he do? Daily, he went and filled in the sea and he built a temple the sea. That's a folk hero. Why do we have nothing named after him? So we as a people need to look at our history and recognize that this exercise should have taken place soon after independence. We missed the opportunity, and we're still talking about it.
Don't matter. At least we're still talking.
But maybe it's for the inheritance of the next generation.
Yes.
So it was progressive that we named the Audrey Jeffers Highway. It was progressive that we named it the Uriah Butler Highway. But the same person who made that pronouncement insisted that it be called the National Stadium. It's inconsistent.
But I also would like Woodbrook people to know, those who are viewing, that not every aspect of Woodbrook came into the book. There are lots of material still available to go in, but we were limited because I've had persons telling me, but Wendy so didn't get in the book, but it's not everything you can put in the book. We were limited.
The sheer magnitude. Plus, we had to, I mean, you can't have a book that's 4 times the size, you know? But in addition, some things we weren't able to check them out, because that was one thing. Wendy's amazing with that, I'll tell you. She had to check everything so that if there was a story that we thought was reasonably, most likely correct, until it was checked, we couldn't put it in. And when the time came and the bell finally, and Ken in particular said, this is it, we're ready to go.
Well, you know, you were also, financing was also, we were limited by financing. I mean, I sent out, it was nearly 75 letters, and I think we got response from about 6 or 7. You know, in Woodbrook, businesses in Woodbrook never responded. You know, and you know, you just have to chase them down. You have to do your network. Who know who on a board? You know, to get the financing. But we got it. Yes, we got it.
What would you say has been thus far the reception to it?
Can I tell you, we printed 1,000 books, and we only have, how much? We only have 20, 41, 26, 67 books.
So what you're thinking about?
So get one, get yours soon. 67 books.
Yeah, all right.
And then what we also did is that once we had broke even and got our money back and so on, we reduced the price so that, you know, so then now you can get it for very inexpensively. I think it's only $2.50.
And we did an excellent roadshow launch. We did one in New York. Toronto was fantastic. Barbados, excellent. And of course, there were thoughts, we had thoughts of going to London. But you have to have a visa. And the cost of a visa
Was more than,
yes,
more than the book.
more than the book. But everything was lined up at the Commonwealth Institute to receive us. I made Michael LaRose, John LaRose's son. Right, they have a bookshop and in London. And he met with us. But it can't happen.
Anyway.
You have to remember too that we're talking about niche marketing. This is about Woodbrook. So not every and anybody is going to, but the people who understand the significance of the contribution of each individual community. For example, if given my historical perspective and my understanding of documentation, because the parent group that I belong to is one of the few parent groups that is documented, its history is documented in the form of a book. That's very important. Yes. So people recognize that would buy a history of Woodbrook, even though I am not a member of the Belmont community, I would be one of the first in line to buy such a history.
Oh, yes. Yes. But we thought that London had a large diaspora, and a lot of people from Woodbrook live in London, come from London. And also too, the University of Reading has a Caribbean Studies, and they also align with that is a Sustainable Heritage Program. So a link was being made for Reading to go to Reading. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to go, but I wanted to just raise the issue of talking about in previous generations, the movement of people from Venezuela to here, and how that has helped establish what is Woodbrook. And I'm thinking about in this moment, to the extent to which maybe that is, our past history with people coming from Venezuela here is just. This is just another episode.
It's just a continuum. It's just a continuum. You see, whenever you look at a migratory movement, there are always ebbs and flows depending on what is happening in the country of origin. So we see there's trouble in Venezuela, so automatically, okay, there are a number of migrants coming here. It's always been so.
It's
always been so.
As a child growing up
but
in
now
the
they're
40s.
not only clustered in Woodbrook, you see. Whereas before they clustered in Woodbrook, they're all over. So you could go to Chaguanas and you get a Spanish speaker.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I'm sure they have.
Yes. St. James also have a lot of them now. But
even in the Bamboo, when I went to collect, go for a part, I took a taxi and there I was talking in Spanish to a resident of the Bamboo. She's from Venezuela.
And it depends on which part of the coast they come into, because if you go to Moruga and so on, and then from on that side, and they come to
My
Pinar.
uncle used to make the trek annually, okay, from Caracas, across the Guiria, across the Gulf of Paria, to Trinidad, to play parang.
All right, well, it's been a fabulous discussion, man. Let me thank all of you for
and thank you, Andy, for having the Woodbrook Residents Committee discuss the film, discuss the book.
And if anybody wants to show it to their students in a school, or if there's any other place that they want to show it, I'm sure you can contact you. Maybe you can give your information so we can find you. And also, if you want to buy the book, you can come to Millefleur, which is the second building after QRC, the second one around the Savannah. We have a bookshop, and we have it there. There are many other bookstores.
Metropolitan Bookshop,
which is in Paperbase. And Paperbase.
Yes.
I just want to say something to Miguel. I mean, you've always been somebody I know who's animated, but this today, I've not seen you so sort of passionate over it.
Well, you haven't been around me long. It's in the blood.
Now you know why.
It's Venezuelan Bajan blood on Trinidadian soil. You can't get better than that.
They tell me they're going to run the film when we're done here. So let me.
Okay, lovely. Thanks again for having us.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Miguel Brown and Margaret McDowell.
And thank you for
Thank you.
WES
Because
TV.
I remain a wannabe Woodbrookian. I'm very proud of where I'm from and so on, but
Yes.
there's that that caught me when I first came to
Bamos, the lowlands.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's been 10 questions, Andy Johnson. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.
WESN.
Welcome to Woodbrook, a vibrant square mile of history and heritage in Port of Spain, Trinidad. This isn't just any neighborhood. It's a living, breathing tapestry of culture, music, and heritage. Portal to a rich past, a dynamic present, and a promising future.
1888, Woodbrook land was a cane estate.
More than a century ago, Woodbrook was an amalgamation of sugar estates. Imagine endless fields of cane, the hum of labor, and the vision of Picot de la Perouse, who in 1787, after the cedula of population, founded the first sugar estate on this island. Ownership passed through many hands, each leaving their mark, from pioneering French settlers